Welcome to Nocturnal Clarity, where we strip away the noise of the world to explore the secrets of psychology, the strength of philosophy, and the ever-evolving art of becoming who you are. Welcome to our series, Architects of the Soul. Today we examine our first proponent, Marcus Aurelius, the philosophy of the unshakable inner fortress. Imagine holding absolute power over the entire known world, while everything around you is completely falling apart. No one in human history understood the burden of chaos quite like Marcus Aurelius. He was not a philosopher sitting safely in a quiet library, speaking about abstract notions like peace. He was a human being trapped in an endless storm, writing to himself in the dark, just to stay sane amidst difficult times. In this video, we step into his world, analyze his thoughts, and discover how his ancient tools can help you build an unbreakable fortress inside your own soul. But it is not that one-sided. We will also see the problems of this philosophy, and I'll give a solution on how to transcend it. The historical abyss. To understand his words, we have to look closely at the immense weight he faced. In the year 161, Marcus Aurelius became the Emperor of Rome. But he did not inherit the golden age of peace, as the Roman Empire was already slowly crumbling from within. He inherited a relentless crisis. For 19 years, his life was defined by one disaster after another. A devastating pandemic, the Antonine Plague, swept through the empire, killing millions and leaving the streets of Rome cold and empty. At the same time, brutal, exhausting wars erupted on the borders. Marcus was forced to leave his comfortable palace behind and spend years living in muddy, freezing military camps along the river Danube. If this wasn't enough to make matters worse, his closest friend betrayed him and tried to take his throne. And finally, he had to endure the tragedy of burying 8 of his own children. He was completely surrounded by death, betrayal, and high pressure. Every single day, 1,000 voices wanted something from him, demanding decisions that could alter the fate of nations. He was exhausted. He was isolated. And yet, when you read his private journal, which we know as Meditations, we do not find the words of an angry, broken tyrant. Instead, we find an astonishing stillness. Meditations was never meant to be published. It was his private therapy sketchbook, including no filters, no royal speeches. It's the equivalent of a tired emperor whispering to himself, "Stay good. Stay calm, keep breathing." The psychological foundation. It is easy to look at the Roman Emperor and think his life has nothing to do with ours. But honestly, human psychology has not changed that much in 2000 years. You might not be commanding an empire, but you know exactly what it feels like when life gets overwhelming. You know that heavy, suffocating feeling of uncertainty. You know what it is like when your finances, your health, or your relationships are threatened by things you cannot control. And then there is the modern plague of burnout, where a job, your family, and especially the constant digital whirlwinds of distraction pull your mind in 100 different directions at once. We have to understand that our brains are constantly flooded with information. It's only harder to see because we've become so used to it. When we take a closer look, we see that we live in a world that weaponizes our attention and profits off our anxiety. That is the reason why news about apocalyptic futures get so much attention. Just like Marcus Aurelius in his war camp, you are fighting a daily battle against the chaos of your environment. But when we look closer, we uncover something perplexing. His ancient battlefield looks a lot like our modern reality. His philosophy, Stoicism, is not about becoming a cold, emotionless statue. It is the simple realization that while you cannot control the storm, you can always control how you sail the ship. The pillars of the citadel. Let us break down the two most powerful pillars of his philosophy and look at the deep psychology behind them. The first one is objective perception. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Reject your sense of injury, and the injury itself disappears." Stoicism says that events are actually neutral. They do not care about you. They are not inherently sad or angry. It is our own narrative, the story we tell ourselves, that actually creates the suffering. When someone insults you, for example, it is in objective terms, just sound waves in the air. The insult only becomes real when your mind decides to take it personally and allows the ego to feel attacked. Marcus literally forced himself to look at the world without conventional judgment. He looked at expensive wine as just fermented grapes, and royal robes as just sheep's wool dipped in shellfish blood. He stripped everything away to see things for what they truly were, removing the emotional layers that cause us to panic. The second pillar is the inner citadel. Marcus believed that every human being has a fortress inside its mind. No matter how chaotic the world gets outside, the enemy cannot breach your walls unless you yourself open the gates from the inside. Your mind is the only place in the universe where you have absolute sovereignty. You can lose your money, you can be betrayed, you can lose your physical freedom, but your choice to stay calm, rational, and honorable belongs entirely to you. A citadel is the realization that your inner peace is a choice, not a result of your surroundings. This gives immense power back to the individual. The modern transformation. So, let us bring Marcus Aurelius into your everyday life. How do you actually use this? For example, tomorrow. Imagine you wake up, look at your phone, and see a message that instantly stresses you out. Your heart starts racing, you jump into worst-case scenarios, and that familiar loop of overthinking starts tightening around your focus. In that exact second, you need to step into your inner citadel. Use the Stoic trick of the strategic pause. Do not react. Do not type in a reply. And do not scroll on social media to hide from the discomfort. Instead, look at the situation calmly and ask the question: is this a threat to my character, or is it just a threat to my comfort? If a crisis at work or a fight in your life does not force you to become a bad person, it cannot truly harm you. It's just an external circumstance. Marcus teaches us to treat modern chaos as a strengthening for the soul. When you deal with an angry person or an unexpected setback, you do not say, "Why me?" You say, "This is exactly what I need to practice for my resilience. This is my fuel for it." You stop being the victim of modern society and start mastering your internal response. The hidden trap. But let us take a holistic approach and see the other side. Where does this philosophy fail? What are the actual dangers of going full Stoic? If you read Meditations carefully between the lines, you will notice an astonishing, lingering sadness. By constantly bracing himself for betrayal and tragedy, Marcus sometimes slipped into pure cynicism. He wrote about people as if they were just annoying, ungrateful creatures he had to tolerate out of a cold sense of duty. And that is the trap of the Stoic fortress. If you build the walls too high, to keep out the pain, you also keep out the joy. In psychology, we recognize this as a state of emotional flattening, or a hyper-vigilant detachment. When you spend all your energy bracing your mind against potential betrayal, loss, or disappointment, your nervous system remains in a perpetual state of defense. Extreme detachment can make you emotionally numb. You stop letting yourself feel deep passion, deep vulnerability, or deep love, because you are terrified of losing your tranquil state. You begin to treat your own heart as an enemy, trying to silence its natural longing for connection, just to protect it from being bruised. This is where philosophy can turn into a dangerous illusion. It becomes a sophisticated way of running away, using ancient wisdom as a psychological shield to hide from the beautiful, messy, and unpredictable reality of human emotions. It is important to notice that true emotional resilience is not the absence of feeling. It is the ability to feel the full spectrum of life, the heartbreak, the grief, the absolute chaos of loving someone, and yet still remain standing. If you use Stoicism to ensure that nothing can ever hurt you, you haven't conquered your fears. You have merely surrendered to them. You have allowed your fear of suffering to dictate how much joy you are allowed to experience. A fortress can easily turn into a tomb if you never step outside to actually live. True strength is not found behind stone walls. It is found in the courage to let the world touch you, break you, and reshape you, while your inner core remains unbroken. For me, this is the actual purpose of the Citadel. The final awakening. At the end of the day, Stoicism is not a cure for being human, in the sense that you don't have to deal with your emotions. It is more like a medicine for chaotic times. True nocturnal clarity is the realization that you do not have to choose between being a fortress and being a human. You can be both. You can step outside your walls, feel the cold rain of reality, allow yourself to bleed when life cuts deep, and still return to that unshakable center within you. Marcus Aurelius was not a saint who felt no pain. He was a man who felt everything, but chose not to let the pain dictate his honor and his way of living. As you step away from the relentless noise of modern society, take a long look at the walls of your own life. You do not need to control the whole world to find peace. You do not need everyone to understand your path. And you do not need tomorrow to be flawless. The desire for a perfect, painless life is the ultimate trap of the ego. True freedom begins when you stop demanding reality to be comfortable and start trusting your own capacity to endure the uncomfortable. Remember that tired man in his military tent, writing by the dim, flickering light of an oil lamp. He was thousands of miles away from home, facing the death of his children, the betrayal of his friends, and the collapse of an empire. Yet he looked at his empty hands, looked into the dark, and reminded himself that peace is never found there in the external validation. It is always, exclusively, found within. Thank you for spending this hour with Nocturnal Clarity and our series, Architects of the Soul. If this reflection brought you a moment of introspection in a loud world, consider liking and subscribing to join our journey. Thank you for listening.